Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Ana Denis, a communications trainer, speaker, and author who helps people express who they are, especially during moments of change. After 20 years working in marketing and sales at companies like YouTube and Google, she realized something simple but powerful. Human connection matters far more than tools or algorithms. Today, our work focuses on helping people communicate their identity with clarity, especially when they are navigating reinvention. Anna, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Sekani. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So yes, and now we're gonna be diving a little bit into your 20s, right?
Okay. Okay.
All right. So early in your career, what did you think success and communication were about?
My relationship with communication actually changed throughout my career.
Mm.
When I was a kid, I was an introvert. I was super introverted. I used to spend all of my time with books. And that was the reason why I was winning, competitions and Olympiads in literature and language, because I would read books, but I wouldn't talk to people at all. I literally, well, maybe I had one friend, but you could count them on one with the fingers on the one hand. So I didn't feel I was a good communicator. I felt excluded in many social environments. And that continued, I guess, throughout to the 20s, actually. So throughout school, definitely. And then I made a decision to leave my home city and move to the capital, move to Moscow. I'm originally from Russia, so that was a big move. And I wanted to study there and continue my life and career in a big city. And that was when my relationship with communication started to change because, whenever you change your city or even your country, you are in a new environment. And this environment has another type of people and another rules. So what I realized is, like when I was a kid, I used to see, and maybe it was just me or my understanding of this world. I was not a truly happy kid, truly joyful kid who enjoyed her years of schooling. I was quite lonely, so when I moved to Moscow, I realized that I have many more happy people around me. And I was like, okay, then I want to meet these people. I want to get to know them. And that's when it started to change. But what I realized then, like now, 20 years into my career, is that communication is actually worth much more than even your skill. I mean, I was raised with this belief in mind that your skills are everything. That they will determine like how you perceived, what kind of career you build. You have to be smart, you have to study, you have to be a straight A student. And then I also was saying that back in childhood, like some people who were really good communicators, they used to have both. They were hardworking students and they were good communicators. And that was interesting. So I think my my transition into being an extrovert from being an introvert started when I started to analyze these people. I was intrigued. I was interested. Like, how can you be good at both things? That was unusual. And then especially now that I also switched countries and I now live in the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a very different business landscape. Like, for example, in some countries, like the United States and in Russia as well, everything's digital. because the country is too big, right? So they have to develop the services,
Mhm.
and they have to develop a lot of stuff, a lot of platforms that hold people together, and offer communities you might want to join. But in a smaller country, human connection and human relationship has much more value. And if people don't know you, they just don't trust you. And if they don't trust you, you cannot get a job, you cannot sell your services, and you can basically do anything. So the first thing is just building human connection. And that's kind of one of the cornerstones of what I'm doing right now.
Hmm. All right. Wow. It's funny because I had a guest before now, right? A few minutes before this, and he also spoke about human connection, right? He said one thing that is lacking in our society right now is human connection and trust, right? In a fast rising economy where AI is taking over, there's no human care or connection anymore, especially in workplaces. And this is very important, right? It's the only advantage we have against AI, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the human touch, human connection, human care, right? So I think this is something that needs to be addressed, especially in our society today, right? So I believe, right, that you have experience, right? So for people today in their 20s, what do you think they misunderstand about finding their voice?
Think one big misconception and one big misunderstanding is that you have to be out there, you have to be online, because the way our mind is wired, we are wired to compare ourselves against the others. And
Mm,
now we have so many platforms to do that. You go to LinkedIn, and it's a vanity fair. You see everyone is at least a CEO or a senior partner, and you feel behind. And then you open Instagram, and then you see everyone buying cars, homes, traveling, and then you also feel behind. And what it mostly provokes is we rarely compare ourselves to others in an advantageous manner when we
mm,
really say, like, yeah, I feel like I'm feeling superior. And that isn't necessarily good, but that's
mm,
also what rarely happens. We mostly engage in downward comparisons. So
mm,
we honestly, when we open social media, we mostly feel that there's something wrong with me, rather than my life is fine and I'm happy with it.
mm,
So a lot of young people nowadays are looking at getting this exposure and visibility, building their personal brands, building their social media. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is mixing up two things. So by building this visibility and personal brands, many people believe that will get it will be an answer to one of their key needs, which is being
mm,
loved. And we put a lot of time and effort in building that, these YouTube channels, these Instagram
mm,
pages. And then you feel that, well, when I have 50,000 subscribers, I will feel better about myself. I will not feel
mm,
behind after looking at all these social media pages and comparing myself
mm,
against other people. But what a lot of people are secretly hoping for is just that they will be loved. They will receive a lot
mm,
of appreciation, likes, comments, etc. But what happens is, actually, and I know a lot of people who are full-time creators, and also have huge social following because they're too active. But one thing you should understand is that what if your circumstances will change and your social following will grow, that will not change how you feel. And that will not
mm,
change how you feel about yourself. So, this love and this sense of belonging should only come from inside. Well, it shouldn't come from the inside. That is the only place it can come from.
Mm.
And that is one big misconception. So I would suggest, and that's something that I referenced in my book, because again, even midlife, that is not only the
Mm.
struggle of young people, even midlife, when we are searching for our next careers and trying to figure out who am I on in the next chapter of my life, then you also struggle with that because you feel pressure. We all have limitations, and the more we move on to into midlife, the more limitations we have. We have mortgages and rents to pay, and our obligations to our family and to other people. So when you're trying to figure out who you are, you feel pressured, and you feel that pressure of being out there. So immediate having figured out, having everything figured out immediately. And then that's what is a big challenge for lots of people, because again, how can you find an answer when the only thing you feel is pressure? And
Mhm.
it takes time. It takes lots of soul searching. And I think it also takes silence, which is
Mhm.
a huge challenge for so many people because you just can't stop. Even
Mhm.
for young people, you have your obligations, you have your studies, your universities, your friends. You can't just afford to, become a hermit and move away for half a year to figure out who you are. Well, of course, some people can afford that, but I guess not the majority.
Exactly.
Um, but having this silence and having this moment of silence is essential, because if you don't hear your voice, you will always be listening to other voices,
Mhm.
and that will only be drawing you to different sides and also contradicting sides and fields.
Hmm. Wow. Okay, I must say thank you so much for that one, right? And yeah, it's all about yourself. You need to, should I call it self? I, I think it's identity, right? Realizing who you are. Exactly. And it takes time. It's important to know that it might take a while to understand what you want for yourself and who you really are as a person. But then again, it's something that is possible. And like you said, comparison, right? Most people they tend not to compare themselves the right way. They're always making wrong comparisons, like who has the car, who has the this. But you should try the positive type of comparisons, right? I guess.
Right. You know how they say you should only compare yourself to yourself, but that is so difficult to do because our mind is not built that way. We have
Exactly.
to like enforce that feature and train that muscle. But I can also advise a hack that would help to do that. So
Mhm.
whenever you find you're comparing yourself to someone and feeling inferior because of age or nationality or skin color or whatever, like the one thing that I advise to do is just get to know this person
Mhm.
instead of just looking at one picture or one social media page. Just get to know them. If
Mhm.
they if you can, yeah, of course, if that's like Tom Cruise or Jennifer Aniston, that is probably not possible, but we also know that they are like superstars and everything they post online is polished by their PR teams. But if that is a real person, just get to know them, because
Mhm.
the way comparison works, you can only compare yourself to another person using one criteria. So you
Mhm.
are usually using, okay, she has gorgeous hair, and then mine is just a torture. But once you get to know the person, it's impossible to compare yourself just based on one criteria, because you know their story, you know where they come from, you know their struggles and what they faced in life. And that completely changes your perception of the number of criteria you should use to compare yourself against this person. And you stop comparing, actually. You just probably, chances are, you will just like them,
Mhm.
because our paths are non-linear and everyone is facing struggles of their own. And those are different struggles. For some people, it's moving to another country and feeling like an outsider. And for some people, you don't move anywhere. You just feel like an outsider at home in your own environment. And there are dozens of reasons, our family, our cultural backgrounds, which are challenging to accept. And we have complicated relationships with that factor throughout life. But again, that doesn't make you inferior to other people. It's just a part of your story. And once you get to know your story, once you tell your story, how you want to tell it, keeping in mind where you would like to go next. And once you learn other people's stories, that's where human connection emerges.
Mm. All right. Well, okay. Thank you so much for that one. Right. And yes, I need us to do a deep dive into what you're doing now. Right. So you focus on communication during reinvention. So why do you think that moment is so important? And also, like, can you explain what that means in simple terms?
All right. So, in simple terms, I now live in the Netherlands, and that is a country which has lots of expats.
Mhm.
Lots of people from all over the world are coming here, and their paths are really different. So, there are some expats, so people who were invited to work here because there are many programs that allow you to move here as a highly skilled worker. And then there are also other people because you don't usually move alone. You move with your partner, and that might also mean that your partner becomes a trailing spouse. And for many people, that also includes reinventing yourself from scratch. And what I mean by that is, well, let me give you an example. Let's say you were a lawyer in your original country, and then you're switching countries and find out that your profession no longer exists because you cannot be a lawyer in another country. There's another legislation. There are other procedures to get certified, and you basically have to start from scratch, even if you are highly qualified. And that is another popular misconception. Like many people, especially in our information era, might say that like migrants are not qualified. That is not true. You know, I see a lot of amazing people who are super qualified. It's just the business environment is different, and their former profession is not aligned with what's going on in the Netherlands, as an example, right now. So what happens is, like, imagine you are in a new place and you have no job. You have to find a job, but before that, you also have to decide which job you're looking for and who you are, because it's basically all the roads are open. You can select anything because either way, you're starting more or less from scratch. Keeping the skills and the superpowers that you have, of course, but again, I've heard that over and over from many people, like, I'm starting from scratch, I don't know where to go. So that's what reinvention is about for me, but it also might look different. Reinvention looks differently in lives of different people, so you don't have to switch countries or relive this experience to become a reinventor. Literally, any circumstance of your life might trigger the question, the understanding that you're not fulfilled, you don't enjoy what you do right now professionally, you would love to achieve something different, you feel the potential within you that you truly could make an impact, but you don't know how. And that is, again, another trap that our mind throws at us because we certainly know what we don't want in our life. Once we face it, we certainly know, like, no, I don't want a toxic environment at work. Never. I want to avoid it at all costs. But then to understand what's my calling, what kind of job will I be good at, that is so difficult. And it takes time. It takes looking at inside of you, and just talking to you. So that's where communication comes in also. It's a little bit of a psychological process, but I look at it from the perspective of communication. So we any psychological change is basically a conversation with yourself. It's hearing what your inner voice is saying, what your inner voices are saying, because there are so many of them and some are contradicting, and just deciding whether you want to keep these voices in your new life. And whenever you're reinventing yourself professionally, there are so many inner limiting beliefs. I would say that is a label, but still, that's what it is, right? So you don't see yourself in a new profession yet, and perhaps you don't even allow yourself and give permission to yourself to start in a new profession because previously you had status, you had money, you had a great job, and here you have to start from um, yeah, many people would say from scratch, just agreeing to any job, any junior level position to get into a profession that you truly want to be in, and that is difficult. That is a process. So that's one thing I'm truly passionate about in terms of communication. And the other thing, which is much less psychological, I'm also an organizer at local TEDx. So I truly care about giving people a voice, and public speaking is one of the ways how we can um, truly become ourselves. So surprisingly, it has a lot to do with reinvention. Because to become a speaker, you should really know your foundation, like what you stand for, what you want to say. And that will already make your speaking much, much better than like 20% of people, even 50% of people. Because one of the biggest problems that speakers are facing, and surprisingly, we also have our applications open at the moment, so we are interviewing speakers and seeing what they are bringing to the stage, what they could potentially bring to our main event. And it's a big struggle for most of them to just, you know, have a set topic for their TED Talk, because a TED Talk is that big thing where you're supposed to have everything figured out, and you're supposed to create your legacy, and also talk about something you truly care about. And that's when you start to freeze because, oh, what if there are so many other things I care about? What if there are like five things I care about? How do I transform it in a TED Talk? And that's basically the same process as with reinventing yourself professionally. Like, if I have to choose a path, I can choose from five probably, but which one is the correct one? Which one should I go for? That's a question.
Okay. All right. So now I actually do understand what it means, right? Reinvention. And what I can say is, oof, I wonder what it feels like, right? Because when you were talking, I was trying to picture it, me having a job here, and I've gotten to a reasonable point in my life where my job now looks, it's very good, right? I'm almost like a professional, and then I move to somewhere else and I have to start afresh. It's scary. I
It
must
is,
say.
it is really scary, and it is difficult. There is actually a stress scale where the researchers rank the most stressful events in life. And obviously, like the most stressful ones is the death of your spouse. But moving to another country is somewhere in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. So it's somewhere at the top of the list. So it is difficult. And before I moved, I never imagined it that way. I was just like, yeah, I work in technology. I could get a job anywhere.
Oh.
And then you don't realize that there are some cultural differences. And although it seems that it's Europe, and especially if you don't live in Europe, that's how people see it. Like it's Europe, people are the same across countries, and then you go to Europe and you are just stalled by all of these differences and by all of these different people. Every country is unique, and every country is different. And Netherlands is truly a very unique country in terms of their working environment, in terms of how people live. So it differs much, even from Belgium, which is a neighbor. And I could talk about that for hours, but I believe that is not what we were supposed to talk about in this conversation.
Okay, I actually do understand, right? So yeah, it takes a lot, right? And like you said, what is very important is communication, right? You need to be able to communicate your identity, right? You need to communicate how you feel and what you stand for, right? What you stand for. You need to understand that. And yes, you also spoke about the struggles of expressing who you're becoming. Right. It causes a whole lot of struggle. And while you spoke about it, I was thinking, right, why do you think so many people actually do struggle to express who they are becoming?
Because in this process, you are very vulnerable and raw. So imagine that you are going through this kind of reinvention, and let's take an example, not that extreme. So you're not moving to another country. You were fired from your job,
Mm,
which
mm,
is something that a lot of people are facing now. There are layoffs, and you are, well, you had your life figured out. You had
mm,
a daily routine, and now you have nothing. And
mm,
that is scary. That is also a little bit similar to, I guess that people who retire also feel this way. So you had a job, you had the office to go to, and your social circle, and then you suddenly just by yourself at home, and you have to figure out who you are. So communication is the key to reinvention. That is something that I truly believe. And you should connect with other people because it will help you to move through this phase quicker. But what happens is most of us feel very vulnerable in this phase, and
mm,
you have no desire whatsoever to network with people.
mm,
And imagine that you're fired and you have to go to a networking event. So what do you say? Like, I have no job, and you know that there will be lots of people who are employed right now, right? And again, this comparison, these reference points will mess up your brain a little bit. So what happens is many of us in these situations we are ashamed, and that was something that lots of people who I interviewed faced. So they had to go through a period of unemployment where you cannot, when you're employed, it's very easy to hide your sense of self-worth and identity behind a brand. And when
mm,
you say, like, I work at Google or I work at McKinsey, I work at this very cool big brand, and you don't have to over explain. And people usually say, wow, you are so smart. And
exactly.
then when you go like, yeah, I am currently unemployed, and you don't get the same reaction,
Mm,
surprisingly. And many people are afraid by that. Of course, it has an impact on how you see yourself and how you see your worth. And now imagine that not only you are fired, you are applying to jobs and you are getting rejections.
mm,
So you are not sure whether you'll be able to find another job soon. And it all, like, we are all grown-ups, and when you're a grown-up, you know this realistic, obvious things that you have to find the right job listing, you have to find the right place. So no, you have to face rejection as well, and that is normal. No one gets accepted 100 times out of out of 100. But then when you're in this process, it gets messy because, well, first five rejections go unnoticed because, yeah, it's normal. But then when you get rejected for the 50th time, for the 100th time, there is a very realistic thought that arises.
mm,
Is there something wrong with me? Maybe I have lost my skill. Maybe I am not what this market is looking for. Maybe my skill was replaced by AI.
Mm,
I also helped lots of people who were either journalists or blog authors, and they struggled with how to continue their career because
mm,
it's yeah, they could face even more challenges when they switch countries because you're also switching the language.
mm,
And if you were a um, eloquent journalist and articulate journalist in Russian, imagine doing that in English. So most
mm,
people, it would have been so hard. Most people, of course, don't have that level of a native speaker then. So again, they have to rebuild themselves from scratch and find that segment where they could bring value on the market and still feel like it's something that is aligned with their values and
mm.
their direction in which they are pursuing.
All right, wow. Okay, so thank you so much. I must say, right, I've learned so much already, and I'm actually getting to find out some new things that I didn't really know about, right? So yes, and if I may ask, right, what do you think are some like practical ways people can become better communicators in their daily lives?
Wow, that is such a good question. A simple way. I would say it doesn't start with a message template. It doesn't start with a some kind of a hack that
Mm,
you're using, like that will magically transform everything. But I would advise to just start with noticing something good about other people.
mm,
And that is a little bit of unconventional advice. But what happens next is when you're yeah, when you start noticing good things about other people, you also start noticing good things about yourself.
mm,
And by giving compliments to others, you are building that foundation inside of you and get a sense of normality of these compliments. I know that many people are struggling with compliments because they feel unnatural and they don't feel like themselves. They feel like they're just trying to please that person, but it's actually not true. So it comes across as just not authentic or even aggressive sometimes. But I would say that, well, giving a compliment would be an easy advice, but the harder path that would definitely transform the way you see the world and the way you come across in the world is just believing what you're saying, right? And to do that, you should see like these good things about other people. And then what also will transform your life definitely is if after you've seen something a person is really good at, you just tell it to them. You
mm,
just share it because we often notice a lot of good things about this world, but we rarely share them. And
mm,
here's what happens when this person needs support and when they're going through a reinvention of their own. And we will all go through multiple reinventions in our life, becoming parents and switching jobs and switching countries. There are so many things that could change. But when you will be sharing these good things, you will also be supporting what you've noticed. Like, for example, you see a person who is a really a good speaker, and we always assume that this person knows this. Why would I
mm,
say that to them? But also as a speaker, as a person who works with speakers, I could definitely say that people always feel stressed and scared when speaking. So even if they heard it 100 times before, it never hurts to say that again. And again, that is the way you build human connection by
mm,
just saying out loud what you like about this person, and that may grow into friendship, a job
mm.
opportunity, or a life partner. Why not?
Exactly. Wow. Okay. So always notice the good things in people, right? That's a very unique, tips actually for better communication. And yes, thank you so much, Anna. This has been amazing. And I have this one question for you, right? Final, my final question. Who knows, right?
Okay.
So, for someone in their 20s who feel lost or unsure about who they are becoming, what would be your honest advice to them?
Mm, I should say, well, I will say this. Know that the phase you are in life suggests exploring.
Mm,
So don't limit yourself in exploring. That is the best years to build friendships, find out what
mm,
you're passionate about. And what's important about finding out what you're passionate about is trying it, because you
mm,
can never be sure. You can imagine that, well, I would love to be I don't know, a full-time creator, for instance. And
mm,
then just, okay, there are no limits. You can do that today. You can try that today. Maybe you will not become a full-time creator in a year or in a month, but then
mm,
you can already make some steps. So start making the steps, try out and listen to yourself, how you feel. Because if you truly listen to yourself, you will discover which thing really matters to you and which thing worth pursuing. And
mm,
to that, I would also advise to start building your social circle and build your connections. And that again circles back to the human connection and connecting with people, because I wish I knew that sooner. I wish I knew that in my 20s, that connections matter, and everything in the world is about connections. If
mm,
you are liked by people, if people trust you, they will offer you everything. They will offer you opportunities, and you will be able to achieve whatever you're striving to achieve,
mm,
right? And if people don't know you, the path will be just difficult and
mm,
longer. So I would say that each person in your life, you might see them in very different ways. And obviously, when you're a student, there are students who are like great students, there are students who are not that good, but just know that in 10 years, you will all have very different paths. And and there will be good students who will make a great career, and there will be good students who will not make a great career, but they will become awesome in something else. They will become great parents and build a great family, or become a member of a professional association or a nonprofit, or there are so many paths in life. But what matters and what brings value is keeping that connection to people. Every person you meet is a gift, and if you see those good things, you're able to appreciate it. And there is always something good about each person. There is always something good about their personality, or what they're good at, or what they can do. And if you're able to appreciate it, you will just start building the foundation that will help you further in life.
mm. All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been amazing. Conversations like this are often very important, especially for young adults, which is the focus of my podcast, right? Who are trying, who are currently going through reinvention, or those who don't even know where to start from. They've not even started their career yet. So, conversations like this are often very important for them to gain the needed clarity. Right. So thank you so much, Anna. This has been amazing. And yes, it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. It's called the rapid fire segment.
Okay.
All right. So starting now, clarity or confidence?
Clarity.
Hmm. Okay. Adaptation or authenticity?
That is so difficult. I would say authenticity in the right way,
Hmm.
which would mean
Right.
that,
Well, okay.
well, yeah, we'll continue with that.
Okay, you know what? Just what would it mean, right? Let's just talk about it.
All right. So what I mean by authenticity in the right way is that, yeah, there's always that struggle. Do you adapt, especially when you move abroad, for instance, do you adapt to the needs of a new country, or do you just stay yourself and that's what a lot of people refer to as staying authentic. But there was a an interesting article somewhere which was called "I'm Not a Triangle," and which talked about when you are moving to another country. Let's say you're from a culture and you're a triangle. So that is a triangle culture, whatever that means. That's a just a set of qualities and what this culture represents. And you move to a culture where everyone is a circle. So do you become a circle or do you stay a triangle? And the answer is neither. You will become like the triangle will be a little bit rounded. It will never become a circle, but it will also not stay a triangle, right?
Exactly.
So that is authenticity in the right way. You adapt in some ways, but what's important to you in terms of your values and your lifelong goals, you keep with that. And that's what makes the difference.
All right. So it's adapting while retaining your true identity, right? You don't have
Yes.
to change who you are, but then you can be who you are and also adapt in whatever condition you're in. Okay. All right. So listening or speaking.
Listening.
Hmm. Okay. And what is one word for reinvention?
One word for reinvention. I would say reinvention, but transformation, maybe, growth, which also comes to my mind. Yeah, I would call it growth.
Okay, all right. And finally, what is one habit that improved your communication?
Um, hmm. Perhaps I would say something that we already discussed, like connecting with people and making compliments is a part of that. But I would say that the core habit is just making your networking regular. Because I also didn't realize that when I was young and I didn't network at all. I was scared of people and I felt weird and it was just it was just stressful. Every time I had to talk to a person I don't know, to a stranger, that was stressful. But what I realize now is that basically every person is opening some new door. So I network regularly. I volunteer at TEDx. I regularly meet new people through TEDx and through other communities as well. And then every person I meet, I'm just so excited, and that expands my horizons. Sometimes it gives me a new opportunity, a speaking gig, or a person to talk to, or even a new friend. And that is wonderful. And I wish I started to build that sooner, because I would have been unstoppable right now.
Okay, that's true. And yeah, now you know, so you're still unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
All right, Anna, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And where can listeners get to learn more about you and what you do?
So I have my personal website, which is anadenis.com. You can come visit to invite me to train your employees or to speak at your event in the Netherlands and in Europe. Now, there's also my book, Reinvento, an expert's guide to reinventing your career and identity, which is out on Amazon. You might check it out. It contains and speaks to a lot of points we touched on today. And I also founded the Reinvento Club, a place for people to reinvent themselves. So if you are between jobs or moving to a new country or facing another struggle, and need to dive in deeper into your identity in a safe environment with other people who are just in the same position and who also feel vulnerable and but want to move further, then you can join the Reinvento Club as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been amazing. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Thank you, Anna. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Sekani. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you. Take care. All
Take
right.
care.